right, everyone. Today we got together and we were just kind of having a little chat about KOTOR and Star Wars and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We were going to be recording something else and it kind of fell through at the last second, but we thought, why not just stay on here? We'll go ahead and record a little conversation about KOTOR. That sounds fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we thought the natural place to start is the KOTOR remake was handed off to Saber Interactive. What do you think about that, Brian?
Yeah, so that news, it kind of broke like last week, I think. But then it looks like it was officially like pinned down. So Embracer, who's like the big like conglomerate that owns these studios, basically, confirmed that that was true. So, yeah, it sounds like the KOTOR remake is moving from Aspire, up the chain, as it were, to Saber. They're both kind of in the same, Aspire's under the umbrella of the Saber studios, so it is going to be going to there. It said that it didn't expect to have significant delays. I mean, of course, there's probably going to be some delays, but they never gave us an official like release date, so it's hard to, they can have some wordplay there. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to move it up to a little bit bigger studio, someone that has a little bit more experience doing something. Aspire's mostly known for doing the ports, but I think it's okay. I don't have a problem with that, and it seems like it's still moving in the right direction. But what are your thoughts, Cassia?
Aspire still has my heart. I think if you're gonna remake KOTOR, you want to make sure it's being remade to the best quality possible, and I think Aspire did a great job, did what they needed to well, but maybe it's just kind of like their studio is just kind of smaller and it's still growing, and there are some other studios under the same, I guess, umbrella that are kind of just farther along in their progression that would be able to handle it. But I expect to see a lot of the same people.
Yeah, I would think because it looked like Aspire had most of like the jobs kind of pinned down, at least like in the writing departments and stuff like that. So I think that maybe that's where they're coming from when they say they don't expect like significant delays. Maybe the story was okay. It was really just down to kind of the gameplay and the game mechanics and the way the game was functioning more so than the story part. So, it's just kind of working that and keeping on some of the same like creative team. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Hopefully we'll get an announcement maybe sometime here. Closer as we get to like the end of the year, maybe get sort of an update on the status of all these things. But yeah, I think it's in good hands, and I think that they probably made the right call. If they weren't happy with it, going ahead and moving it rather than, trying to either force it out or just scrapping the project altogether.
Yeah, I expect we'll probably see something like a trailer or another look at it sometime in September. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, what are your thoughts on Andor?
That's right. Yeah. So Andor was supposed to be coming out like this week, I think, right? Or something. Next week. I don't know. But they pushed it back. But I am really looking forward to it. I've still not watched the full trailer. I've seen some images and little snippets of it. As you may or may not know out there, I am not a huge trailer watching person. So I try to I don't really try to avoid them, but I'm not gonna seek it out and watch it. So if it comes across my eyes, I'll give it a look. But Andor is one of the projects I was most excited for when they made the announcement. I think that it's going to be really interesting, and I'm hoping I get a lot of kind of like spy and espionage themes from it, and that seems to be kind of what the direction's going from what I've heard people's reactions to the trailer. But really looking forward to this one, and Diego Luna was really good in that role as Cassian Andor, so this was one, it is high up on my list. But what about you, Cassie? I know you were excited for Kenobi, but when they made the announcement, was Andor something you were really looking forward to, or?
Yeah, for sure. I loved Rogue One, and so far I think Andor looks very cinematic, kind of like what you expect from a Star Wars show, movie. And I'm excited for it because I think it could be multiple seasons, kind of like, I don't know, I guess like the Mission Impossible TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Or like 007 stories. And I think like where Rogue One kind of ends with melding into A New Hope. Like, what if this show eventually ends after a few seasons, melding into Rogue One, like
Hmm.
the final missions on Wobani? I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool if it just kind of just doesn't skip a beat and it kind of picks up with like the Ursos, going off to that planet where we meet up with them and Cassian, well into the rebellion. Then at that point, I think that would be pretty cool. That would be a neat kind of storytelling trick. And obviously, as we're getting the Clone Wars and Rebels and Resistance, we'll really have like a beat for beat timeline of the entire Skywalker saga. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I am a little hesitant because how many origin stories for the rebellion can you really have? I
Mhm.
do kind of want to get away. Like, I think Andor looks great, but like one day I just want Star Wars to grow beyond just being like, how do these people know the Skywalkers? Where were these people when Luke
Right.
was drinking blue milk? You know?
Mm. Yeah, that is the
So,
that is the burning question on everyone's mind. But I am right there with you. I mean, I like these stories and I love them and I love consuming them and talking about them. But yeah, I think we both would like to see something from outside of the timeline. We're getting that a little bit with the High Republic, and then hopefully the Acolyte's going to definitely do that too. But what we really want, Cassia, I think I don't want to speak for you, but what I want. Is a KOTOR movie, preferably the one that we made, between episodes, I don't
mhm.
know, like 64 and 110-ish. Go back and listen to all of those episodes. You can hear us go on and on about this excellent trilogy of films. But, if Lucasfilm is going to be making one, we'd be down for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have a trilogy of movies rather than a show because I want the biggest budget we can get. And
$500 million, just throw it all at it.
$500 million. Whatever they're spending on Rings of Power, just like give that
That's,
to us and like, we'll just make this, you know. Just
that's right.
kidding, it wouldn't be us. But yes, with all my heart, I want a KOTOR trilogy of movies and um I just want it to feel, look, and sound a bit different than Star Wars. Like, because I was kind of thinking, like, a lot of films right now, like
Hmm.
Marvel films, they used to be like people, like, you had to see them in theaters, and now it kind of feels a bit like an obligation. Like, I
Right.
kind of think, like, maybe KOTOR isn't, like, quite the right thing, but I just want to excite people again to, like, feel like they have to go to the theater, not just, like, feel obligated to be like, oh, I guess I'll see this in theater so I know what's going on, you know? Like, I just think Star Wars could be reinvented. Like, it
Hmm.
could be popular, but still kind of hit some mythic needs and fulfill them, you know? I don't know. Times are changing, and I think Star Wars can still be the same but change with it, you know. And KOTOR is a very different flavor.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think uh, that's something that they could probably achieve, right? That's one of the kind of neat things about Knights of the Old Republic, the game, is that it feels very much like Star Wars, as a lot of the same Star Wars beats, a lot of the same technologies, but it also feels very different. And I think that they could definitely kind of grasp that. And the big reason for me to have a retelling of this, because personally, I don't need I want to see it, but I don't need it because I already know the story of Knights of the Old Republic. We've played the games, we've talked about it for a long time. But I was doing a little number crunching, and KOTOR depends on where you look, but it's sold somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3.5 million copies. Now, Rise of Skywalker, which was the lowest grossing of the three of the sequel films, that sold roughly 11.5 million tickets. So it's so many more people would be exposed to the story, and that's really why I want to see it, because I think that the story of KOTOR is amazing, but, the percentage of Star Wars fans that know it, is still pretty small, and even, the wider realm of Star Wars. How cool would it be? You talk about, prequel kids and sequel kids and original trilogy kids. How cool would it be if there were like KOTOR kids who that was their first Star Wars experience, like going to a movie and their favorite character then is, Bastila or Juhani? That would be amazing.
Yeah. So we bear our testimony on all things KOTOR.
That's
And
right.
then this question, what's your favorite order to visit the planets in and why? I think we kind of have the same ones. Should we try to, like, without planning, try to say them at the same time?
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that.
Okay, so three, two, one. Kashyyyk,
Tatooine,
Tatooine, Manon,
Manon, Korriban.
Korriban. Yeah,
Hey, yeah. Perfect, perfect. Now I will say there's a little bit of a caveat to that. So if I'm going to turn on the game and play it, I'm going to play it in the same order that pretty much you're not really supposed to play it, but the way that everyone plays it, which is Tatooine, Kashyyyk, Manon, and Korriban. But
yeah.
you know, if we're talking the movie adaptation, and we get way into the reasons why back in some podcast episodes, yeah, it's got to be Kashyyyk, Tatooine, Manon, and then Korriban. That makes the most sense.
Yeah. And you should listen to our episode 59 with Hooney. I guess you weren't there, but it really got me thinking deeply about Kashyyyk and the Wookiees and how it relates to real indigenous experiences. So I wholeheartedly recommend that.
Yeah, and you always made the
And
good
then,
you always made the good parallel of comparing you know, in our proposed trilogy, which starts on Terrace and then ends on Kashyyyk. You get kind of the parallels between this big skyriser city versus this big forest city. To kind of mirror each other as you start and end the film. And I always thought that was a really good parallel.
oh, thank you. And I think we can skip this question. Do you care enough about it?
It's the top 3 favorite KOTOR quests, and there's really only one best one. It's Trouble with Gizka because it comes from a cool title from a Star Trek thing, and Gizka are awesome, and we need shoulder Gizka, get Gizka merch. That's what we want.
Yeah. I mean, like, KOTOR 1 is my favorite quest, second favorite quest, KOTOR 2, and then third favorite quest is KOTOR 3. So, where is KOTOR 3? What
It's
is
the
KOTOR 3?
it's the Revan novel. Go listen to us
No.
talk about the Revan novel and find out why it is our 3rd favorite KOTOR quest. It was a quest
Yeah.
getting us to talk about the Revan novel, I will say.
I use the Force to get through it. So, Brian, what is your favorite HK47 quote?
Well, we were talking a little bit offline, and I said that HK47 is not my favorite character. I don't have a lot of favorite HK47 quotes. I do like the way that he talks. I like kind of the cadence of his voice. I like that, as he addresses things, so, statement, observation, that kind of thing. So I had to do some thinking, and really my favorite is, of course, the way HK47 describes love. And I know that you love love, so I'm thinking that we might have the same favorite quote.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Do you wanna say it in your best non HK47 impression?
My best non HK47 impression. Okay. Definition: love is making a shot to the knees of a target 120 kilometers away using an Aerotech sniper rifle with a tri-light scope. Love is knowing your target, putting them in your targeting reticule, and together achieving a singular purpose against a statistically long odds.
Oh, it's beautiful. It could bring
It's
tears to my
poetic.
eyes.
Yeah, that's right. It is. It brings all the emotions that HK does for sure.
I mean, imagine it's a Disney movie and, like, Bastel is trying to deny her feelings, and then, like, HK47 says something to her like that, and then, like, it, like, shifts her entire perspective, and
That's right. You know what I want to see. You know what I want to see though now is like HK looking like longingly out into like a sunset, and as he says this, you just get like a little like droid tear like rolling out of his eye. That would be beautiful. I think.
yeah. We just have so many ideas that, I mean, they are ideas. Like, no one can say that they are not ideas,
That is right. They absolutely are our ideas.
And then we're kind of doing a little bit of an audio drama. I guess, how would you describe it? And then I can describe it.
So I would describe this audio drama as a really good kind of perspective piece through the story of KOTOR, being told, kind of in the perspective of Bastila Shan. That's what I see it as. Not a beat for beat on the story, but getting more of a first person's perspective from the way that she is seeing the story unfold, and I think that it's awesome. And I think that Cassia is doing a great job with this. This is all her creation, and yeah, why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, Marcus did help me with some action scenes because I'm more of like a how do we do some dialogue and like I don't know, sometimes like lightsaber fights are hard for me, so he did help me with that. But I guess I would describe it as like a triptych. You have some character moments like Malik, Bastila, and Vanar slash Revan. It starts with the Jedi Strike Team, and it goes up until about Korriban in the game. But I would say Bastila is the main through line, and we kind of get into her head a bit more. Like Bastila is my favorite character, I think, and like I don't know, I think like I have some similarities, with Bastila, Karth, and them. So maybe one day we'll have the Karth origin story, But this is just kind of a fun exercise to do, kind of make it like a radio drama, So it's pretty fun. Can't wait for you to see it.
It looks really good. I've been fortunate enough to kind of read through a couple of the iterations and seen what you've been up to working on. Was this something that you've wanted to do for a long time, or was it just more recent? I know you've been working on it for quite a while now, but like going back even to like your love of KOTOR, was this always just something that you kind of had in like the back of your mind that one day it would be awesome to kind of tell this story from her perspective with using your voice?
Whenever anyone asks like what like fan film I would make, I was always like, oh, Bastila with the Strike Team, because I think it's cinematic, but it's also a very big character moment. It's a very big moment for Star Wars. I'm surprised we don't see more of it in the game, honestly. And it would just be cool because like I think once I finally understood Bastila, I kind of finally was able to, it kind of unlocked like empathy for me, and I was able to be like, I understand this character now and I understand this one now. So right. Maybe that was just me going through Corona and being in a weird place, but I wanted to get it out of my head. Like I started kind of scripting it last year and kind of getting my little writerly muscles back to screenwriting. Like I'm not a perfect screenwriter. I probably have like lots of errors in my script, but getting back into that was a lot of fun, and just wanted to say something in my voice about a story I love so much. And I hope you like it, and if you don't, that's okay, because I'm sure many people could do it better, but I don't know. I think there should be more projects out there, and hopefully it inspires some people to make art or something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to see how it kind of comes together, and just getting like a behind the scenes kind of look at the creative process has been pretty awesome. So
yeah. And then, in case you don't remember, like, how did we meet, Brian?
So we met, back in the before times when the Old Republic podcast was known as the Ebonhawk podcast. I stumbled across it. I was getting back big into kind of Star Wars fandom. Rise of Skywalker had just come out. I'd just been to Galaxy's Edge. I just gotten the big, huge, beautiful box set of the Skywalker saga, and I was like, man, I'm really just loving all the Star Wars stuff going on. I was getting back into doing some toy collecting and finding a bunch of stuff that I just recently gotten back from like my parents' house and stuff. So I was doing some digging for some Star Wars podcasts, and I came across one called the Ebb and Hawk podcast. Now a lot of people might not know what the Ebb and Hawk is, if you're a novice to the Star Wars world, but I did. I said that is that ship from that game that I played like 20 years ago. That sounds awesome. That sounds fun. I should start listening to it. So I did, and I love the podcast. And we met through that, right? Just kind of me being like a fan of the podcast, and participating when you do. Ask people like what their fan casts were, and just kind of engage on that way. And then you invited me on to be a guest back in, I think it was episode 42.
42. Is that the meaning of life number?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
Is it? Maybe
that
it
would have
is.
been cool if it was. Maybe it means
it should be. Maybe that is the real one
out there. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, 42, and then I was like, I think you'd be a great co-host, and long story short, he ended up becoming a co-host, and he's like really good, and can't imagine the pod without him. So
well, thank you. And part of my my co-host duties is that while you were just talking, I googled the meaning of life number, and it is 42. You were right, I was wrong, and yeah, it was kismet, I guess, that I came on episode 42.
Yeah. So is Star Wars your favorite sci-fi series, or would you say it's sci-fi?
I would say that it is sci-fi, because it involves science, and it is also a fiction. Is it my favorite? Nah, I don't even like Star Wars. No, of course it's my favorite. It's of course my favorite sci-fi series. I mean, there are a lot of other ones that I like too. I love the Tolkien world. I love like the Planet of the Apes world, especially. Well, I like the original, and then kind of this more recent trilogy that we got from there. So there are some other science fiction worlds that I like a lot, but of course Star Wars is my favorite one. It's the best one. How could it not be the favorite one?
Yeah. I mean, looking back on it, like, I grew up with Star Wars, before that Disney films, but like Star Wars just, I don't know, it was like a fairy tale but different. And I've always loved mythology, and I think I could kind of sense like it had a little bit of a mythic spine through line through it. So I kind of attached myself to it, latched onto it. Growing up, I did really like Harry Potter. I'm not so much into Harry Potter anymore because the books are done, and Cursed Child was weird, and J.K. Rowling is kind of, I don't know, going through something right now. So it kind of makes it like I'm just not really invested in Harry Potter right now. But I do love Indiana Jones and old movies, especially like Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland films, and films from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I'm catching up on those, but I would say like Star Wars is my number one series, and I would kind of call it sci-fi fantasy, fairy tale, opera. Like for me, like Star Wars has like lots of different flavors, and I love them all.
Yeah, for sure. It ticks a lot of boxes, for sure. And yeah, kind of same as you. Like I like a lot of other things, but Star Wars was like the only one that I ever felt like really invested in. Like it was something that I would search out and try to learn more about, and explore the worlds of, and read the books of, and play the video games of, and kind of take it beyond just whatever was on like the Sunday matinee that week that I'd watch with my brother or my dad, or whatever. It was something that kind of transcended all of those other ones for me. So
yeah. So Brian, do you like KOTOR more than the movies?
That is a real trick question. I will say that Knights of the Old Republic has an incredible story. It is full of an incredible cast of characters, and I love this game a lot. I don't think my own personal Star Wars fandom and the way I feel about Star Wars would be the same if I only had this game instead of the movies. But I think that it probably would be if I had the movies instead of the game. So I will say no. I guess I would take the movies in this horrible thought experiment where I had to pick one over the other. But yeah, I for me, I think it has to be the movies. That was the foundation. That was the beginning.
Yeah. Same here, but in a way, like I love KOTOR so much, I want it to be a movie. Like
Hmm.
like I said, a trilogy of movies. And I think it really could be different, like kind of reinventing Star Wars, like Star Wars had to be invented. Uh,
Yeah.
and kind of leading into the next question, like I kind of mentioned this, like KOTOR could be the opportunity to make it look, feel, and sound different. Like I haven't watched the House of the Dragon yet,
Hmm.
but Game of Thrones had a certain look, and then House of the Dragon has like kind of more of the look from the books, and it's like I feel like we could get more medievally and kind of courtly love, kind of epic drama to be had in Star Wars, like different flavors.
Hmm.
Not everything has to be the A New Hope uh, flavor that we get a lot of.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you bring up a really good point. Is that we hold this game obviously in very high esteem. And that we want to elevate it to like the rank of those movies. So when you're saying, something like do it like KOTOR more than the movies, we it's almost like we like KOTOR so much we want it to be one of the movies. So
Yeah. Yeah, like if you can't tell, we love KOTOR. Probably too much, but we love it.
it's possible. It's
And
possible.
yeah. But so if you could change one thing about KOTOR, be it gameplay or story, what would it be, Brian?
Well, so so my answer is twofold. And the answer is combat. And first off, if I could take the combat out of pretty much any game that doesn't really require it to tell me the story, I would do that because I don't really have time, can't be bothered with fighting. But I would change kind of this D20 system combat. And not that I think that it is broken, not that I think that it's not enjoyable, and not that I don't think that you can get a lot out of it. But it seems to me on any sort of like negative review you get, and especially like younger people who are just trying out KOTOR, it seems to be a real big barrier to entry for people to get over it. I would gather if you gave this to like a group of young video game playing kids and said, hey, play this game, they would get to that first combat and be like, no, not interested in this at all. What is this? This is nonsense. So I would change it
Yeah.
just to bring it up to date because I think that would help engage people that are, they've been hearing, people like us being like, oh, Knights of the Old Republic, it's the best game ever. You should definitely go play it because, the story's so great. And then they turn it on, and that's just a huge hurdle for people to get over. So I think if you
Yeah.
just kind of modernized that a little bit, I think that would go a long way. And bringing it up to speed. So if I was changing one thing about KOTOR, it would definitely be the combat system. But what
Yeah.
about you? Do you have anything you would change? Leave it as is.
Um I would change the main titles to be
Hmm.
something more mythic, something more medieval, like how like old stories begin with the invocation of the muses.
Hmm.
Maybe it's like you invoke the force, and then it kind of looks like an illuminated manuscript,
Hmm.
a little bit different. Maybe it's like circle based rather than rectangular base and kind of rotates, looks like a star map. I just want it to look amazing, and um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna surprise you with an unlisted question, and then you can surprise me with an unlisted question. But what do you
Okay.
think the message of KOTOR 1 is? If you want to answer what the message of KOTOR 2 is, you're welcome to answer that too.
The message of KOTOR 2 is that there is no message and just figure it out for yourself. The message from KOTOR 1, I think, is really a message of redemption and that you're not bound by the choices that you've made, right? You can always atone, you can always um, you know make compense for the choices and the actions that you've made. You don't have to be tied down by those, so to speak. So I think that repentance, rebirth, those kinds of things, that is the overarching story of KOTOR 2. That's the lesson to take out of it, I think, especially when you're talking about the character of Revan in the game. The player character, that is in my mind definitely kind of the message and the lesson that you're meant to take away from that. But I guess I'll just I'll throw that right back to you since it's unscripted. But what do you think? What is the overarching lesson of Knights of the Old Republic? Maybe I should just ask you what the overarching lesson is of KOTOR 2, since you tossed me to the fire. But we'll stick with KOTOR 1, and you can dabble into KOTOR 2 if you want.
I would say KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 are actually kind of similar messages. I would say KOTOR 2 builds on that message, but KOTOR 1, I would say it is counsel, COUNSEL, not cancel.
Yep.
Let people redeem themselves. Let people have hope. I think in our generation, people really do need that. And rather than just having redemption equaling death, like living atonement is good to see, which is why I love the character of Reva in Kenobi. If I could only get one thing from Kenobi, I'm glad it was Reva. We need more stories like that, especially in Star Wars. And KOTOR 2, I would say, builds on that. You can make restitution for what you have done. It's a purgatory story, it's an atonement story, but like no one's 100% right. You have to make your own path, and it's not like there's a fairy over your shoulder saying this is the right one, this is the bad one. You have to just make choices and deal with the consequences, and sometimes what's right for you is wrong for others and vice versa, but I think it's just to have empathy.
Yeah, for sure. You raise a good point that they're both kind of telling similar tales. I think that for me, kind of the way that I see it then is that KOTOR is more of a story of redemption, of making good on the bad that you've done, and KOTOR 2 is kind of a tale of atonement, and kind of being forced to see the consequences of the things that you've done. So I think it's kind of the same story. It's just a little bit of a different sort of narrative of that story, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like in KOTOR when you're dealing with the personal consequences, and then in KOTOR 2 you're kind of seeing like the galactic-wide consequences as well as the personal level to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Any other surprise questions?
No, I think that is all the surprise questions that I had, because these were all kind of surprise questions. Like I said, we weren't really we were planning to do something else that kind of fell through, but we had this list of questions, so we thought it would be fun to just kind of run through them for everyone. And it's always good to kind of take a step back and revisit just kind of the way that we feel about the game. We we spend a lot of time getting into like the nitty gritty of making our our fictitious film that we were putting together, and getting into the inner nuance. So it's always kind of fun to just step back and reflect on what we really love about Star Wars and KOTOR and that kind of stuff more in a general sense. So it's always fun and refreshing to kind of do that, and then get back into the depths of KOTOR 2, which we are trying to cautiously wade into those waters now. So
yeah, I mean, we probably got too nuanced and deep, but I would say the breeze is successfully shot, and I don't know. I think it's a good vibe for fall. We're having a fun fall. We're gonna dress up like Han Solo, and around the corner is the holiday special again, probably, and I'm probably gonna have to watch it again and not like make detours to kind of just deal with it, but wow.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
don't know.
That is Life Day is getting perilously close. So we might have to do a revisit of that. Maybe that'll be an annual tradition. But Yeah, I don't know. I guess that kind of wraps it up on these little questions. So hopefully everyone had fun kind of going through that stuff with us. Took something away from it, and if you have kind of your own thoughts on any of those things, feel free to drop us a line on Twitter, on the Discord, or on my Instagram. Kind of wherever you connect with us. So.
Yeah. And may the breeze be with you.